this live in March, or some of you are potentially watching this recording at a later date. Either way, I appreciate your attention and thank you for your interest. If you're here with us today, you know that we're talking about the Patriot transmission line, which is a new transmission line undertaken by Duke Power in Anderson County. If you are impacted by this project, you've likely known about it for a number of years. The identified landowners that are impacted were initially contacted between 2020 and 2023 with a number of proposed routings for this project. And now the proposed routings have been decided upon. The routing is finalized, and we're moving quickly into the right-of-way acquisition phase. It's easy for me to say some of those words, to talk about right-of-way acquisition and eminent domain, which we are certainly here to talk about today. I know that many of you as landowners have probably, fortunately, never had to experience any of that. And so I'd like to break it down a little bit today, tell you a little bit about the government's right to eminent domain, how your property rights may be impacted, and most importantly, to tell you a bit about what rights you may have as landowners. So ultimately, any time that a governmental entity or a quasi-governmental entity like Duke is operating on behalf of the public for a public purpose, they have the right to acquire property through the use of eminent domain. And that means simply that. That means that the government can acquire private property for use of a public purpose as long as that public purpose doctrine is met. Basically, any road widening project, road improvement project, or utility improvement project like this transmission line will more than likely meet the government's definition and the court's definition of a public purpose project. And because of that, Duke likely has the power to use eminent domain to acquire the private property that they need to be able to build this transmission line on the eastern and western sides of I-85 in your area. So we like to, at Bell Carrington, let landowners know that you have rights. Firms like ours, and we're located in the upstate of South Carolina. My office is based out of Greenville, and so I'm intimately familiar with this project. It's in our backyard. We operate a firm that represents landowners across the Southeast through the Carolinas, Georgia, Alabama, and Tennessee. But this project hits home particularly. And so I've met with a number of landowners on this project. I know that the impacts are substantial. I know the land values in this area. I know that it's a rural area, much like where I grew up, where there are lots of family farms and properties that have been in families for multiple generations. And so I understand that the idea of having a new 100 kilovolt transmission line running through your property with a significantly wide right-of-way presents some problems, and that's an understatement to say the least. Unfortunately, once the route is decided upon, there are very few rights that landowners have to force Duke to relocate the right-of-way or the transmission line. But fortunately, you do have rights. The most important of those is the right to just compensation. And put simply, that means that even though a governmental or quasi-governmental entity like Duke can take property from you, they have to pay you fairly and adequately for what they're taking from you. Unfortunately, that's not a simple mathematical formula. The government would like for you to think, or Duke would like for you to think, that they can plug in A plus B equals C, and that's the amount of money that they need to pay you for what they're taking from you. Unfortunately, that's never the case. That identification of the impact to your property and the advocacy to negotiate on your behalf to make sure that you receive those true damages is far easier said than done. Fortunately, our folks at Bell Carrington, myself included, our eminent domain team, we have a number of lawyers who focus solely on representing landowners to make sure that your rights are protected, that the damages to your property are identified, and at the end of the day, that you're paid fairly and adequately for what Duke is taking from you in this particular case. Landowners often ask, can I make Duke change the routing? Can I hold out? Unfortunately, that's not the case. The way that this works, practically speaking and procedurally, is that at some point in the near future, we would expect that over the next few weeks, the next couple of months, each landowner will be contacted by a right-of-way acquisition specialist on behalf of Duke, letting you know that your property is definitely impacted, that they're going to need to acquire some property from you, and that they have an offer of X for you. And at that point, you'll be able to engage in negotiation. If at some point those negotiations fail, then entities like Duke have the ability to file what's known as a condemnation notice. And that's essentially a lawsuit against you as the landowner, where the power company will deposit a sum of money that they allege represents just compensation in your case. They're going to serve you with a condemnation notice. At that point, South Carolina is one of those states to where once that condemnation notice is filed and that money is deposited with the court, they can start work. They can enter upon the property that they have obtained through condemnation, and they can begin construction on this transmission line. That doesn't stop the negotiations, but it does make them more complicated. If you're unrepresented, it's basically like being unrepresented in a regular lawsuit. The same rules of procedure apply, the same rules of evidence apply. And if you don't have somebody on your side fighting for your rights and your property value, then you're likely going to be at a disadvantage, because Duke, in this case, has right-of-way acquisition specialists that do this across their region every single day. They know the terminology, they know the procedure, and we do too. We know the terminology, the procedure. Oftentimes, we know the players involved, and we're there to guide you every step of the way, from that initial contact, the initial appraisal, the initial offer, all the way through potentially your final right as a landowner, and that's a right to a jury trial, to have 12 members of a jury in South Carolina explain to you what your rights are and to ultimately tell you what your property value is worth. Now, many of these cases don't go to trial, but we have that right during our representation of you, and we reserve that right in case we need to exercise it at the end of the case. I like to finish these town halls, and we certainly keep them brief, around 10 minutes. If you're anything like me, that's about your attention span. So two things that are important at Bell Carrington. Number one is we have some proprietary software that will allow us in real time during an initial phone call or conversation to be able to dive down into your property on a specific property-specific level to tell you exactly what the impact is to your land. Does it hit outbuildings? Does it hit your home? Potentially, what kind of timber is impacted? If you have an industrial or commercial piece of property, how will your access or your property value be damaged as a result of this project? We can look into it real time and zoom down and give you a real idea of what we think the property impact is, and if we think it's a good fit for our firm to be able to help you. We can do that in a few minutes during those phone calls. Second thing is that those phone calls and those initial consultations are always free, no obligation. We have a team of 6 lawyers standing by, ready to talk to you, to let you know what the impact to your property may be. So I'm going to, at the end of this call, enter my direct contact information. Feel free to reach out to me. You'll also see our eminent domain team's website. And on that website, there are a number of avenues for you to reach out to us, or to even schedule a consultation directly through the landing page. We'd be glad to speak with you. No cost, no obligation. It's not a high-pressure sales tactic. We just want to talk to you about the impact to your property and let you know if we think we can help you. The final thing is what many landowners are often concerned about, and I would be too if I were in your position, and that's attorney's fees. Most folks think, well, if I hire a lawyer and we get more money from Duke in this case, is it going to be a net zero? Or am I going to end up paying more in attorney's fees than I would get from the condemning authority, in this case, Duke? Fortunately, at Bell Carrington, in our eminent domain practice, we have developed a unique fee structure known as a contingency fee structure. And that basically means that our fee is a representative 1/3 of any amount of money that we're able to obtain for you above and beyond the initial offer that Duke presents you with. And I like to say that it's calculated only on the new money, and we don't touch any portion of the initial offer that's made to you. And so we would never ask the landowner in these cases at our firm to come out of pocket for any retainer fee. We don't bill you hourly rates. We're not racking up some exorbitant hourly expense. Instead, we go to work for you. Our interests are certainly aligned. We like to identify the damages. We like to increase the offer for you above and beyond what Duke initially offers you, and then we calculate our fee based on that increase. Those fees can vary slightly depending on the type of property, the type of impact. They can be a little higher or a little lower depending on the type of impact, and so that's why it's most important for you to reach out to us for that initial consultation to get more accurate information on how that fee structure may work in your case. So again, I appreciate you joining us. I am going to enter my email, phone number, and our landing page in the chat box. If you have any questions, I invite you to call, email, or visit our landing page. On that landing page, bear with me, I can't type and talk at the same time. On that landing page, you'll see those three options of either calling us directly, emailing us directly, or setting a direct consultation through our calendaring service. We'd be happy to have you reach out through any of those mediums. Again, Michael Gault on behalf of the Bell Carrington Eminent Domain team. Hopefully have the chance to speak with many of you soon. If not, make sure that you reach out to somebody who can help you on these cases. We just want each landowner to be aware of their rights and to be protected at the end of the day. Again, thank you for joining us. Have a great afternoon and a good week.